Hello, I'm Dr. Karen Becker, and today we're going to discuss cats and nutrition. It's important to know that your kitties are wired as obligate carnivores, which means they're designed to catch and kill prey. I'm not suggesting that you feed mice to your cats, but I am letting you know that they're wired with sharp interlocking canines. Their jaws can't move side to side, which is what herbivorous, let's say cows and horses, can do. Kitties were designed to catch and kill prey, primarily mice. In fact, the first original documentation that we have that cats were domesticated actually came out of the pyramid walls, when we believe that ancient Egyptians domesticated kitties to guard the granaries. We know that cats don't have a biological requirement for grain, but they do an excellent job of hunting the mice. So we believe that cats first came into domestic existence to serve a purpose in terms of catching mice in granaries. Certainly that evolutionary relationship continued on for the last thousands of years, and we've come to realize that cats make magnificent house pets, and we love them. And we've brought them from the outside to the barns to the inside of our homes, and it's a wonderful addition. All of you cat owners know that. But when we made that transition from outside kitties fending for themselves to inside house cats that we want to provide sound nutrition to, interesting things have changed in the kitties' overall health. Unfortunately, the first bag and can of cat food came about in the early 1900s, and we invented cat food really as a means of convenience. We're all about convenience, and of course all of us cat owners know that it's really easy to scoop some dry kibble out and put it in a dish, and we expect our kitties to thrive and have abundant health with very little health problems. But it's important to know that although microevolution may take place, it doesn't take place in 100 years, and kitties are still very well equipped to deal with their evolutionary biological appropriate diet, which is living meat. Now, I'm not suggesting that you feed your kitties mice, but I am telling you that our goal as pet owners to mimic as closely as possible their evolutionary diet, which is high protein, high moisture, low fat, and no carbohydrate. Carbohydrates meaning corn, wheat, rice, soy. So flip over your cat food bag and determine if those substances are in there, because it's a biological inappropriate food to be feeding your cats. When we begin nourishing our cats with some of these convenient, processed, inorganic, packaged foods, interesting physiologic changes started taking place in kitties. Number one, kitties started gaining weight. And that's what happens if you think about it when you carb load cats. Kitties that don't have a carbohydrate requirement that begin consuming lots of carbohydrates start gaining weight. Not to mention the fact that we tend to put a bowl of dry food out and we let kitties graze the whole day. And kitties are not wired by nature as grazing animals. They're designed to catch and kill prey 2 to 3 times a day and then fast in between. But we also don't follow that feeding pattern when we nourish our kitties. We tend to do the all-you-can-eat buffet. And I would absolutely condone all-you-can-eat buffet if you brought me a goat or a ruminant, which needs to be eating every 15 or 20 minutes. But in fact, kitties are not wired immunologically or biologically to process food on an ongoing basis. So in addition to giving kitties the all-you-can-eat buffet, which can also lead to obesity, we've recognized that the weight issue has come on because they're over-consuming calories and they're not moving their bodies as often as they should. With the high carbohydrate diets being added in, we've also recognized that type 2 diabetes has become a rampant medical problem with kitties. And unfortunately, type 2 diabetes is the type of diabetes that comes about from consuming high carbohydrate diets. Carbohydrates break down into sugar, and sugar stresses your cat's pancreas. Your cat's pancreas is designed to secrete insulin to be able to balance the blood sugar, but when you're feeding an excessive amount of carbohydrates, which really shouldn't be in the foods in the first place, oftentimes diabetes is the end result. Another interesting health consequence from feeding a biologically inappropriate diet is urinary tract issues. And we know that high carbohydrate diets cause an alkalization of cat's urine, which causes crystals, cystitis, which is inflammation of the bladder. Kitties can block, they can form kidney stones, bladder stones, and all of this comes about, unfortunately, from feeding a food that kitties weren't biologically designed to consume. Last but not least, we know that kidney disease has come about, and the leading cause of death of cats in the United States is kidney failure. And I don't find it fluke or happenstance that when we ask kitties to go from a 70% moisture-based diet, which is what's in canned food or mice, to a 12 or 10% moisture-based diet, which is what dry foods are, that the organ that ended up being in a state of chronic dehydration are the kidneys. The second issue we have to contend with is the fact that when commercial cat foods arrived on the market, the quality of proteins included in those foods went from fresh, living, and whole to processed, rendered, and diseased. And unfortunately, the majority of even well-known brands that you may be completely in love with, unfortunately, can oftentimes use rendered byproducts. Rendered means not approved for human consumption. So if you have any question about whether the quality of protein in your cat food is approved for human consumption, you really need to call the company, because the truth is that the major brands, 90% of kitty foods on the market, do not contain ingredients that are approved for human consumption. So you can only imagine what goes into that. The carbohydrates associated with the rendered meats also provide a biologic stressor, and the end result are kitties that end up being not nearly as healthy, with a whole host of medical issues that could have been avoided if we could just feed a diet that more closely resembles what they were designed to eat. So this year I'm going to challenge you to wean your kitties onto canned food, and whenever you wean kitties onto a different food, it's important that you don't play hardball, that you take your time and you have a lot of patience, but that you begin to offer them USDA inspected, which means human quality meats, canned food that contains no carbohydrates with naturally preserved with natural preservatives included. That means you have to be able to pronounce every ingredient on your cat food list. After you've purchased some of these canned foods, you're going to begin offering them to your kitties slowly, recognizing that in order to create the desire to want to try new foods in your kitty, you have to create a little bit of hunger, which means the all-you-can-eat buffet has to come to an end. What that means is that you have to pick up the dry food, and you're going to begin rationing your dry food throughout the day, creating periods or pockets of hunger that allows your kitty to consider trying the much better quality canned food that you're beginning to offer. We do recommend that you consult with your animal wellness practitioner on other good tips to be able to wean your kitties onto canned food. And of course, keep it right here at McCulloughHealthyPets.com, and we'll be able to give you plenty more suggestions. But this year, we're interested in having you convert your kitty from a dry, inorganic, overprocessed cat food to a canned cat food. More on that to come.